This series begins with a girl named Seo Yeon. At that time, she just got back from shopping when three strange women suddenly attacked her. They thought Seo Yeon was living with their boyfriend. There, Seo Yeon tried to explain that she was just the sister of their boyfriends, but they didn't believe her because she didn't look like their boyfriends. When Seo Yeon got home, she was very angry with her two older brothers and her younger brother. Because of them, Seo Yeon was attacked by those jealous women. A long time ago, when Seo Yeon was little, her mom married a man who had two sons named Ju Won-jae and Ju Won-suk. They became her older brothers. Seo Yeon also has a younger brother named Ju So-jun from her mom's new marriage. Having two older brothers made things hard for Seo Yeon. She always had to deliver love letters from girls who liked her brothers. Because of this, Seo Yeon started to dislike handsome guys like her brothers. Now, Seo Yeon is a sports teacher at Shinhwa High School. She asks the vice principal for money to hold an athletic competition next month. But the vice principal says no, which makes her upset. Meanwhile, her younger brother So-jun goes to the same school where Seo Yeon teaches. At that time, So-jun causes trouble in class by showing off his dancing. When Seo Yeon finds out, she punishes him. Another time, Seo Yeon meets her best friend Kim Mi-kyung, who is also a teacher at their school. In that moment, Seo Yeon wants to borrow clothes because her boyfriend, Jung Tae, who had disappeared, suddenly asked to meet her. When Seo Yeon meets Jung Tae at a restaurant, she doesn't recognize him at all. He had gone abroad and had plastic surgery to look more handsome. This change makes her disappointed, and she breaks up with him. Feeling sad, Seo Yeon goes to a bar where her older brother Won-suk works to have a drink. Won-suk is surprised that Seo Yeon isn't crying after breaking up with her boyfriend. He even thinks that maybe she didn't really love Jung Tae. The next day, Seo Yeon told Mi-kyung that she broke up with Jung Tae. She now thinks that all handsome men cannot be trusted. Switching to Lee Kong-woo, he is the grandson of the owner of the Shinhwa company and just came back to Korea. Even though he will inherit the family business, Kong-woo is not interested because he wants to be a fashion designer. He is secretly working with his friend Park Hyun-soo, who owns HS Entertainment, a company that manages many celebrities and Korean idols. Back to Seo Yeon. She is worried about a student named Lee Joo-hee who has not been to school for several days. There, Seo Yeon asked the principal about this, but the principal told her to find Joo-hee herself. This made Seo Yeon annoyed, and she accidentally broke the vice principal's favorite flower. At that time, a doctor named Lee Min-yuk, who works at the school, saw this happen. Because the vice principal's favorite flower was broken, he gathered all the teachers and school staff to find out who did it. When Seo Yeon was about to confess, Min-yuk told everyone that Seo Yeon broke the flower. Min-yuk has a habit of not lying and always tells the truth immediately. The next day, Seo Yeon asked her brother So-jun for help to find Joo-hee, who had been missing school for several days. So-jun is popular on social media and quickly finds out that Joo-hee is working at a bar. Meanwhile, the Lee family is having dinner together. At that time, Kong-woo and Min-yuk, who are the grandchildren of a wealthy business owner, are told to pick one of the family companies to manage. But neither of them is interested, so they make excuses to avoid their grandmother, Chairwoman Han. After dinner, Min-yuk and Kong-woo go to a bar where Min-yuk sees Seo Yeon. She is there looking for Joo-hee, but finds out that Joo-hee quit her job a few days ago. This makes Seo Yeon disappointed. Soon after, Min-yuk approaches Seo Yeon and apologizes for telling the vice principal about the broken flower. Seo Yeon said she has already forgotten about it and doesn't mind anymore. One day, Hyun-soo met Kong-woo while he was exercising to give him work papers and asked if Kong-woo would go to their middle school reunion. There, Hyun-soo suggested Kong-woo go to get back at their old friends who used to tease him for being chubby and having an accident in his pants. This made Kong-woo remember the past, causing his irritable bowel syndrome to act up and giving him diarrhea. Kong-woo then visited a psychiatrist named Dr. Kim Dong-gu to talk about his irritable bowel syndrome that flares up when he remembers the past and his habit of drawing women without faces. Dr. Kim thought it was all connected to unresolved issues from Kong-woo's past and advised him to face his past trauma. Following Dr. Kim's advice, Kong-woo decided to go to the reunion alone without Hyun-soo. At the tavern, Kong-woo's old friends were shocked to see how handsome he had become. However, Seo Yeon, who was also at the reunion, didn't seem impressed and kept interrupting his conversations, which annoyed him. Kong-woo then asked Seo Yeon who she was, and casually, she said she was Kong-woo's first love. This made him remember how Seo Yeon had once rejected him. As a result, Kang-woo's irritable bowel syndrome flared up again, causing him stomach pain, and he decided to leave the reunion early. On the other hand, Won-jae broke up with his girlfriend who had attacked Seo Yeon earlier. When he was about to leave, Won-jae met a rude woman named Lee Kong-hee. She mistook Won-jae for a valet parking attendant and asked him to park her car. Then, Won-jae reminded Kong-hee to learn to be polite to others. Meanwhile, after returning from the reunion, Seo Yeon was still curious about why Kang-woo had a bad nickname at school. Mi-kyung explained that Kang-woo had an accident in his pants during a school trip that Seo Yeon did not attend. At home, Kang-woo realized that his irritable bowel syndrome was caused by Seo Yeon. The woman he always draws is actually Seo Yeon, the one who rejected him and made him not eat for days. One night before the field trip, Seo Yeon contacted Kang-woo and asked for his home address, saying she was coming over. At that time, Kang-woo waited for her, but she never showed up. Feeling hurt and angry, he ate a lot of food. As a result, during the field trip, Kang-woo had an accident in his pants because he ate too much. In the present, Kang-woo tells Dr. Dong-gu about the cause of his trauma. There, Dr. Dong-gu advises Kang-woo to make peace with Seo Yeon so he can heal from his trauma. At Won-suk's bar, a student named Choi Ho-dol walked in looking confused. Won-suk told him that the bar was only for same-sex couples and asked Ho-dol to leave. Meanwhile, Kang-woo plans to get back at Seo Yeon before making peace with her. Not long ago, Kang-woo met his grandmother and his mother, Ms. Oh. They asked him to choose a company to manage. Feeling pressured, Kang-woo agreed to take care of one of the family businesses for a year. His grandmother and mother were happy because they secretly planned to trick Kang-woo into continuing to run the family business. Meanwhile, Seo-jun found Joo-hee working as a food delivery person and quickly told Seo Yeon about it. At that time, Joo-hee finished delivering food to a woman named Baek Jang-mi in a park. Even though Jang-mi looked poor, she had a lot of money and gave Joo-hee a big tip. When Seo Yeon came to pick up Joo-hee, Jang-mi thought Seo Yeon was a bad person and hit her with a helmet, knocking her out. After Seo Yeon woke up, she tried to persuade Joo-hee to go back to school and focus on her talent for running. Joo-hee explained her money problems, so Seo Yeon invited Joo-hee to live with her since she didn't have a place to stay. That evening, Kang-woo told Hyun-soo that Seo Yeon was the reason for his trauma. Hyun-soo revealed that Seo Yeon was a close friend of Mi-kyung, who often used rich men. To get his revenge on Seo Yeon, Kang-woo asked Hyun-soo to set up a meeting with Seo Yeon and Mi-kyung. As requested, Hyun-soo invited Mi-kyung and Seo Yeon to a restaurant where Kang-woo was waiting. During dinner, Kang-woo asked Seo Yeon to leave, saying that Mi-kyung and Hyun-soo needed some time alone. At another table, Kang-woo started his plan to make Seo Yeon fall in love with him. He told Seo Yeon that he liked her, but she thought he was joking or not serious. This rejection made Kang-woo's irritable bowel syndrome flare up again. Meanwhile, Seo Yeon told Mi-kyung they should go home and advised her friend not to meet Hyun-soo and Kang-woo anymore. And Hyun-soo, after hearing that Kang-woo got rejected again, wondered why Seo Yeon would reject someone as perfect as Kang-woo. He then suggested that Kang-woo show off his wealth by buying an expensive car to impress Seo Yeon. Hyun-soo also told Kang-woo to break up with Seo Yeon if she eventually fell in love with him, to complete his revenge. The next day, Seo Yeon told her three brothers that Joo-hee would be living on the top floor of their house. Fortunately, Won-jae and Won-suk were okay with it, but Seo-jun asked Joo-hee to pretend they didn't know each other at school. Seo-jun did this to avoid any rumors that might hurt his image as a trainee aiming to become a Korean idol. At school, Mi-kyung noticed that Min-yuk seemed interested in Seo Yeon because she often saw him glancing at her. There, Mi-kyung asked Min-yuk directly about it, making him a bit flustered. One day, Kang-woo went to buy a car at a showroom where Won-jae worked. He saw Seo Yeon and Won-jae together and thought they were dating, but Seo Yeon was just asking her brother for some money. In the evening, Hyun-soo invited Kang-woo to Won-suk's bar to meet some of his company's talents. At the bar, Kang-woo saw Seo Yeon talking to Won-suk and misunderstood again, thinking she was dating both men. Seeing Kang-woo sad, Hyun-soo tried to comfort him. Without realizing it, Seo Yeon saw them together and thought they were a couple. Later, Seo Yeon told Mi-kyung about this while they were exercising in the park. Mi-kyung didn't believe that Kang-woo and Hyun-soo were a couple. Soon after, they saw Jang-mi sitting alone. Feeling sorry for her, Seo Yeon gave Jang-mi her phone number written on a mask, hoping Jang-mi would contact her if she needed help. The next day, Kang-woo met Min-yuk at Shinhwa High School and discovered that Seo Yeon was the sports teacher there. Since the school is part of his family's company, Kang-woo decided to take revenge on Seo Yeon by becoming the main director of Shinhwa High School. A few days later, the vice principal introduced Kang-woo as the new main director to all the teachers. Kang-woo tried to look intimidating, but when Seo Yeon gave him a threatening look, his irritable bowel syndrome flared up again. He tried to take his medicine for diarrhea, but it fell into a flower pot. Suddenly, Kang-woo picked up the flower pot and left the teacher's room. In his office, Kang-woo searched through the flower pot for his medicine and finally found it. He quickly took the medicine, but the principal and vice principal saw him and were shocked, thinking he had eaten a stone. At her house, Jang-mi asked her maid about a mask with Seo Yeon's phone number written on it. The maid said she had thrown the mask in the trash, so Jang-mi went out to find it. When she found the mask, Jang-mi was disappointed because the phone number had faded. Meanwhile, Kang-woo was touring the school with the principal and remembered Dr. Dong-goo's suggestion to use a photo of Seo Yeon for his therapy. There, Kang-woo asked the principal to pose near the field where Seo Yeon was teaching so he could take a picture. When Seo Yeon noticed she was being photographed, she gave Kang-woo a cynical look, which surprised him. Later, Kang-woo met Min-yuk in the school health room. Min-yuk asked Kang-woo to keep his identity as the grandson of the Shinhwa company owner a secret, so he wouldn't be treated differently from other employees. Meanwhile, Mi-kyung found out that Kang-woo became director because he is the grandson of the foundation's owner. She told Seo Yeon to be nice to Kang-woo, especially since Seo Yeon needed his approval to hold a running competition. Hearing this, Seo Yeon felt frustrated and banged her head against the wall. But then, Min-yuk stopped her by giving her a piece of bread and then walked away without saying anything. At the Shinhwa company, Kang-woo's father, Lee, received news from his daughter, Kang-hee, that he needed to attend a company meeting. Lee wanted to be a painter and hoped to hand over the company to Kang-hee, but their grandmother, Han, wouldn't allow it until Kang-hee got married. Elsewhere, Won-jae found out from a magazine that Kang-hee is the granddaughter of the Shinhwa company's owner. Meanwhile, Seo Yeon tried to be friendly to Kang-woo as Mi-kyung suggested, but Kang-woo thought Seo Yeon liked him because he had a new car. On another occasion, Kang-woo told Hyun-soo that he had become the main director at Shinhwa High School. Hyun-soo was annoyed and said Kang-woo shouldn't have revealed his identity as the grandson of the Shinhwa company's owner. He warned that Seo Yeon and Mi-kyung might take advantage of him. But Kang-woo didn't care because he was focused on getting revenge on Seo Yeon. At HS Entertainment, Seo-joon and other trainees were taking a dance class and got a harsh reprimand from their mentor for poor performance. Soon after, Seo-joon went to the toilet to vent his anger, and without him knowing, Hyun-soo, disguised as a toilet cleaner, saw his bad attitude. Because of this, Hyun-soo told the person in charge of the idol trainees to give a special character-building lecture to all the trainees so they could become idols with good attitude. Meanwhile, Mi-kyung tried to contact Hyun-soo to find out his relationship with Kang-woo, but Hyun-soo ignored all her calls. That evening, Kang-woo had dinner with all the teachers at a fancy restaurant. At that time, Seo Yeon saw Jung-tae, who was drunk and about to drive, so she quickly stopped him. Seeing her with another handsome man, Kang-woo thought she was a flirt. During dinner, everyone was surprised when they were served salad. Kang-woo said they needed to take care of their health and made a comment about how Seo Yeon once thought he was ugly and fat. This made her very upset, and they started arguing. Hearing that, Mi-kyung quickly stopped the argument and took Seo Yeon outside, reminding her to apologize so Kang-woo wouldn't fire her. Worried about her teaching job, Seo Yeon went to find Kang-woo to apologize. She met him in front of the restroom, but when Kang-woo accidentally raised his sore middle finger, Seo Yeon got angry again and cornered him against the wall, making his heart race. 15 years ago, when Seo Yeon had just transferred schools, she sat next to Kang-woo and they became close. Kang-woo even shared his dream of becoming a fashion designer with her. Back in the present, Kang-woo went to see Dr. Dong-gu at his house late at night to talk about how nervous he felt around Seo Yeon. Despite being very sleepy, he guessed that Kang-woo might actually like Seo Yeon. But Kang-woo didn't believe it and kept denying it until morning. On his way to school, Kang-woo saw Seo Yeon, which made his heart race again, so he decided not to go to school. A few days later, Seo Yeon wondered why Kang-woo hadn't come to school. She needed his approval for her running competition proposal. Min-yuk noticed Seo Yeon feeling anxious and tried to calm her by giving her a sweet snack. He did this on purpose so Seo Yeon would look for him whenever she felt anxious and wanted something sweet to eat. Soon after, Kang-woo gets a call from Kang-hee. He asks her to get married, so she can become the CEO of their family company and replace their father. However, Kang-hee refuses, saying marriage is not a good business deal for her. She also mentions that she knows Kang-woo is secretly a fashion designer at HS Entertainment. Then, Kang-hee offers to help Kang-woo become a famous fashion designer quickly, but he refuses because he wants to succeed on his own. Kang-woo also asks her to keep his secret job from their family. At HS Entertainment, the mentors tell Seo-jun and the other trainees to pay attention to their school grades to become successful idols. Seo-jun feels frustrated because he has the lowest rank in school. Meanwhile, Hyun-soo introduces Kang-woo as the new fashion designer at his agency. After that, Hyun-soo takes Kang-woo to a bar to have fun. However, Kang-woo gets annoyed by all the women trying to flirt with him. Won-jae is also at the bar and starts looking for information about Kang-hee. One of the barmaids tells him that Kang-hee doesn't come to the bar to meet men but just to have fun. One day, Seo Yeon found an old photo of her and Kang-woo and wondered why he had changed from a nice guy to an arrogant man. She was also surprised that Kang-woo still remembered her rejection from middle school. Later, Seo-jun gathered his siblings and said that HS Entertainment required him to improve his school grades to continue his trainee process to become an idol. Won-suk suggested getting a private tutor for Seo-jun. Hearing that, Seo-yeon agreed and planned to invite Joo-hee to join the private lessons with Seo-jun. The next day at school, Seo-yeon was annoyed because Kang-woo hadn't come to school to sign the running competition file. To relieve her frustration, Seo-yeon went to Min-yuk's room to get some sweet food. This made him happy because his plan to get closer to Seo-yeon was working. That evening, Seo-yeon called Kang-woo and persuaded him to agree to the running competition proposal. But there Kang-woo lied, saying he was busy and asked her to come to his house. At that time, Mi-kyung, who was with Seo-yeon, suggested that Seo-yeon get Kang-woo drunk so he would sign the proposal immediately. Before sending Seo-yeon off, Mi-kyung took a photo of Hyun-soo from the alumni book and planned to upload it on social media to find out his real identity. At that time, Seo-jun saw Mi-kyung's post and told her that Hyun-soo was a janitor at HS Entertainment. Because of this, Mi-kyung thought Hyun-soo was trying to get close to Kang-woo to take advantage of his family's wealth. When Seo-yeon arrived at Kang-woo's house, she went inside while Mi-kyung waited in the car. Inside the house, Seo-yeon waited for Kang-woo, who was purposely taking a long time reading the proposal document, which annoyed her. She drank the beer she brought. When she asked to use the bathroom, Seo-yeon passed Kang-woo's study and felt happy seeing things about him that hadn't changed. Meanwhile, Mi-kyung, still waiting outside, saw Hyun-soo arrive. She invited him to talk and accused him of using Kang-woo's wealth by pretending to be his lover. Hyun-soo was initially confused but then lied, saying he did have a special relationship with Kang-woo to stop Mi-kyung from bothering him. Hearing this, Mi-kyung immediately told Seo-yeon about Kang-woo and Hyun-soo's supposed relationship. After thinking that Kang-woo was a same-sex lover, Seo-yeon felt more relaxed. She sat next to Kang-woo and asked him to sign her sports proposal. Kang-woo felt uncomfortable and tried to move away, but Seo-yeon kept following him. She accidentally bumped into him and saw something she shouldn't have. Panicking, Kang-woo quickly carried Seo-yeon out of the house. Meanwhile, Min-yuk, who was visiting Kang-woo, was surprised to see him carrying Seo-yeon outside. Shortly after, Hyun-soo and Mi-kyung arrived. There, Min-yuk tried to stop Hyun-soo from revealing that he was the grandson of the Shinhwa company's owner. However, his actions made Seo-yeon and Mi-kyung think he was also a same-sex lover. When Seo-yeon got home, she asked Won-suk about men's bodies reacting to women. Won-suk said it could happen if men are stimulated. Curious about her question, he wondered if someone was flirting with Seo-yeon, but she didn't answer and walked away. Meanwhile, Kang-woo was still embarrassed by what happened in front of Seo-yeon and kept covering his face. The next day, Kang-woo signed Seo-yeon's proposal and sent it to the school along with some clothes she left behind. He did this to avoid meeting Seo-yeon again soon. In the afternoon, Kang-woo tried to keep busy by drawing clothing designs, but he accidentally drew Seo-yeon's face. Soon after, Kang-woo got a call from Seo-yeon, thanking him for agreeing to her proposal. Strangely, he felt annoyed because Seo-yeon didn't mention last night's incident. At that moment, she pretended to forget about it so Kang-woo wouldn't feel embarrassed. In another instance, the students in Seo-jun's class played handball during PE. Seo-jun was bad at it, so Joo-hee took over his role and led their team to a perfect score. Meanwhile, Kang-woo agreed to go on a blind date with a woman his family chose, complying with his grandmother and mother's request. At the same time, Mi-kyung also had to attend a blind date set up by her mother. She asked Seo Yeon to help her escape from the event. When Seo Yeon arrived at the restaurant where Mi-kyung was on her blind date, she saw Kang-woo having lunch with a woman. Knowing that he was on a blind date, Seo Yeon felt sorry for him, thinking that his relationship with Hyun-soo was hard for his family to accept. On the other hand, Kang-woo didn't like the way the woman on his blind date ate and started comparing her to Seo Yeon, who always ate with enthusiasm. Meanwhile, Mi-kyung tried to make her blind date dislike her by drinking whipped cream in a messy way. After his date, Kang-woo rejected the woman, saying she was too perfect for him. That evening, Seo Yeon met Kang-woo to give him a hoarder doll as a thank you for agreeing to her running competition proposal. Kang-woo was happy to receive the gift, which looked like him when he was little, and he named the doll Mr. Potato. The next day, Kang-woo visited Dang-go to talk about his feelings for Seo Yeon. Dang-go explained that, without realizing it, Kang-woo had fallen in love with Seo Yeon. At school, Seo Yeon carried an injured student to the school health unit without realizing she had hurt her knee in the process. Min-yuk noticed her injury and immediately treated it while explaining why he chose to work at the school. He wasn't interested in being a doctor at Shinhwa High School until he saw Seo Yeon helping the injured student. Impressed by her kindness, he decided to work there. Unbeknownst to Min-yuk and Seo Yeon, Kang-woo observed their interaction from outside the room. This made Kang-woo realize he was jealous because he still liked Seo Yeon. That evening, Kang-hee began being more polite to the parking attendant, remembering Won-jae's advice. On her way home, Kang-hee accidentally ran over a toy car belonging to a pedestrian. She offered to replace it, but the man refused. Surprisingly, the man was actually Won-jae in disguise, as he was trying to win Kang-hee's heart. Soon after, Seo Yeon went to a bar for same-sex lovers to pick up Won-suk, who wasn't feeling well. At the bar, she saw Kang-woo and Hyun-soo together, making her even more convinced they were a couple. At home, Won-suk was surprised to see Ho-dol, who was tutoring Seo-jun and Ju-hee. Meanwhile, Jang-mi found out where Seo Yeon worked and bought a building in front of Seo Yeon's house to keep an eye on her activities. The next day, Kang-woo approached Seo Yeon after she finished training the runners and asked how to become a good runner. There, Seo Yeon explained that runners need to focus on reaching the finish line as quickly as possible. After Kang-woo understood, Seo Yeon said goodbye. Suddenly, he called out to her, saying he would focus on his goals just like she had said. That evening, Kang-woo met Seo Yeon and told her he wanted her to be his girlfriend. Seo Yeon misunderstood and thought he wanted her to pretend to be his girlfriend to hide his relationship with Hyun-soo. Seo Yeon said she felt bad for Hyun-soo if she accepted Kang-woo's offer, making Kang-woo think she liked Hyun-soo. This misunderstanding made Kang-woo angry, and he went to Hyun-soo and hit him. At that time, Hyun-soo was confused and explained that he had no feelings for Seo Yeon. On the other hand, Seo Yeon kept thinking about Kang-woo's words and decided to meet him at his house. She said she would accept his offer to be his fake girlfriend. Kang-woo was happy and tried to kiss her, but Seo Yeon stopped him, thinking it was too much. Later, Kang-woo took Seo Yeon home and told her about meeting her father when he was in middle school. Seo Yeon's father had taught Kang-woo how to tie his shoes and said that a man should know how to tie his own shoelaces to protect others. At the same time, Won-jae and Won-suk arrived, causing Kang-woo to try to protect Seo Yeon from them. The commotion calmed down after Seo Yeon explained that Won-jae and Won-suk were her older brothers. While chatting at home, Kang-woo introduced himself as Seo Yeon's boyfriend, surprising her brothers because they knew Seo Yeon didn't like handsome men like Kang-woo. Later, Kang-woo told Hyun-soo that Seo Yeon agreed to date him. Hyun-soo was surprised and suspected there was another reason why Seo Yeon accepted Kang-woo as her boyfriend. At home, Seo Yeon called Mi-kyung to tell her that she agreed to be Kang-woo's fake girlfriend to cover up Kang-woo and Hyun-soo's supposed relationship. There, Seo Yeon said she just wanted to help Kang-woo, who was her good friend in middle school. The next day, Seo Yeon and Kang-woo spent time together like a couple. She even planned to upload a photo of them so Kang-woo's family would stop forcing him to go on blind dates. After their date, Seo Yeon met Won-suk, who asked her to meet with Kang-woo because he wanted to confirm their relationship. Feeling that the situation was becoming more complicated, Seo Yeon told Mi-kyung about her older brother's intentions. There, Mi-kyung, knowing that Won-suk was not easily fooled, suggested that Seo Yeon be honest with him. Following Mi-kyung's advice, Seo Yeon told Won-suk that she was pretending to be Kang-woo's girlfriend to cover up Kang-woo's relationship with Hyun-soo. After hearing this, Won-suk doubted that Kang-woo and Hyun-soo were actually a couple. At school, Min-yuk asked Seo Yeon to come to his room to check her leg wound. When Kang-woo saw them together, he got jealous and asked Seo Yeon to stay away from Min-yuk. Seo Yeon misunderstood again, thinking that Kang-woo and Min-yuk had been in a relationship before, so she decided to keep her distance from Min-yuk. Meanwhile, Won-suk asked Suk-min, a talent at HS Entertainment, about the rumor that Hyun-soo was a same-sex lover. Suk-min told him that Hyun-soo was actually a normal man. Won-suk then contacted Seo Yeon to share this information. That night, Seo Yeon, realizing she had been lied to, rushed to find Hyun-soo. She confronted him, asking why he lied to Mi-kyung about his relationship with Kang-woo. Hyun-soo admitted that he lied to stop Seo Yeon and Mi-kyung from bothering him and Kang-woo. Later, Seo Yeon met Kang-woo and expressed her anger, thinking he conspired with Hyun-soo to deceive her. She was disappointed because she felt Kang-woo was behaving badly again, like he did in middle school. 15 years ago, Seo Yeon saw Kang-woo and some students making a bet to date her. Although Kang-woo genuinely liked Seo Yeon, she rejected him, calling him fat and ugly, which hurt him deeply. In the present, Seo Yeon admitted she agreed to pretend to be Kang-woo's girlfriend out of pity. Hearing this, Kang-woo was annoyed and determined to get back at her. The next day at school, Kang-woo called Seo Yeon to his office and revealed that he asked her out as revenge for her past rejection. Unsatisfied with just that, Kang-woo told Seo Yeon she would now be his driver. He threatened to fire her if she refused. Meanwhile, Ho-dol came to Seo Yeon's house again to teach Seo-jun and Ju-hee. He met Won-suk and told him he wouldn't tell anyone that Won-suk was a same-sex lover. At that moment, Won-suk stayed silent because everyone in the house already knew. On the other hand, Jang-mi, the daughter of a well-known company CEO, was told by her mother to go on a blind date with a 47-year-old billionaire who had just divorced. In the restaurant's bathroom, Jang-mi told her mother she refused the man's invitation to sleep with him. Her mother got so angry that she hit Jang-mi, but Kang-hee came in and stopped her. That evening, feeling her life was getting more chaotic, Jang-mi sat in the park to relieve her sadness. Soon after, Seo Yeon came by and gave her slippers without realizing that the woman she was helping was Jang-mi. The next evening, Kang-woo and the teachers had dinner at a restaurant. Since Seo Yeon had to be the driver, Kang-woo forbade her from drinking. However, Seo Yeon was tempted and ended up getting very drunk. After dinner, a drunk Seo Yeon said she didn't like Kang-woo. There, Kang-woo asked what he should do to make her like him, but Seo Yeon didn't answer because she suddenly passed out in his arms. And Min-yuk, who didn't like this, argued with Kang-woo about who should take Seo Yeon home. Meanwhile, Seo Yeon woke up and decided to go home alone by taxi. In Min-yuk's past, his parents left him to work abroad, so he didn't get much attention or affection. He studied hard to try to get their attention, but no matter how well he did, they never noticed. On the other hand, Kang-woo, who wasn't achieving much, was often compared to Min-yuk. Even though Min-yuk had many accomplishments, he was reluctant to comfort Kang-woo, who had attentive parents. In the present, Kang-woo came to school by taxi because Seo Yeon still had his car keys. Surprisingly, instead of being angry, he gave Seo Yeon a hangover cure. On the other hand, Mi-kyung met Hyun-soo to find out why he and Kang-woo were playing with her and Seo Yeon. There, Mi-kyung, not knowing that Hyun-soo was the owner of HS Entertainment, told him to stop staying at Kang-woo's house and focus on his job as a cleaner. In another instance, Min-yuk asked Seo Yeon to be his partner at his school reunion that night. Without thinking, Seo Yeon agreed, and Min-yuk took her to buy a dress at a well-known boutique. At the boutique, they ran into Oh, who later told Kang-woo that she had seen Min-yuk with a woman. That evening, Min-yuk and Seo Yeon attended the reunion. There, Min-yuk told his friends how he was attracted to Seo Yeon from the first sight. His confession made her nervous, especially when he praised her for motivating him to be a better person. During the party, everyone collected luxury items to donate to people in need. This was why Min-yuk always wore branded goods to school reunion. When Min-yuk took Seo Yeon home, he told her that he really liked her from the first sight. However, Seo Yeon laughed, thinking he was joking. Unbeknownst to them, Kang-woo watched and felt sad because Seo Yeon never laughed like that with him. The next day at school, Kang-woo called Seo Yeon to his office and asked her to report the training results of the Shinhwa High School track team every day to ensure the progress of all the athletes. At that time, Seo Yeon had to agree to Kang-woo's demands to avoid getting fired. Another time, Seo Yeon went to Kang-woo's office to give a report on the track team, but he wasn't there and told her to bring the report to his house. Reluctantly, Seo Yeon went to Kangwoo's house to report the results, even though she hadn't had lunch. When he found out, he decided to make food for her. While Seo Yeon was eating, Kangwoo got a call about his job as a fashion designer, so he went to his office. Unexpectedly, Seo Yeon followed him and praised his work. There, Kangwoo quickly asked her to leave, even though she wanted to learn more about his dreams as a fashion designer. Seo Yeon still had the wedding dress design Kangwoo had given her in the past. Meanwhile, Jangmi used a transmitter to listen to conversations at Seo Yeon's house. Unfortunately, this caused an electrical short circuit, leading to a citywide blackout. And Seo Joon, who has a fear of the dark, became scared and kept calling for his mother. Luckily, Joo-hee saw him and hugged him to calm him down. After the power came back on, he asked Joo-hee to keep this incident a secret from his older siblings. In front of a hotel, Kang-hee saw some men forcing a woman inside. Soon after, Won-jae came to rescue the woman and tried to get into Kang-hee's car to escape. Thinking Won-jae was acting, Kang-hee asked him to get out, saying she would accompany the woman alone. When Kang-hee found out that the woman he helped was a crime victim, he asked his lawyer to find out who the criminals were. The lawyer told him that the criminals had been brought to the police station by a man. Soon after, Kang-hee rushed to the police station and discovered that Won-jae was the one who had helped the woman. At that time, Kang-hee decided to help get Won-jae released. Upon knowing that, Won-jae thanked Kang-hee and promised not to bother her again. Meanwhile, Seo Yeon was assigned to be Kang-woo's driver. When she was taking him home, she saw a drunk man about to drive and tried to stop him. The man got angry and almost hit Seo Yeon, but Kang-woo stepped in to protect her. Because of the incident, Kang-woo took the man to the police station where he met Kang-hee. When Kang-hee asked the name of the woman with Kang-woo, he quickly told Seo Yeon to leave. Afterwards, Kang-woo asked Seo Yeon why she stopped the man's car. Seo Yeon said that if someone had done the same thing in the past, her parents might not have died in an accident. Curious about the accident, Kang-woo met Mi-kyung to ask about it. There, Mi-kyung told him that Seo Yeon's parents died in a car accident caused by a drunk driver the night before a school trip. Meanwhile, Seo Yeon woke up from a nightmare about her past. The next morning, Seo Yeon went jogging and met Kang-woo. He suddenly confessed his feelings, making her nervous. She slapped him and then walked away. Later, Kang-woo told Dong-gu about his feelings for Seo Yeon. Dong-gu advised him to keep showing his sincerity so that their past misunderstandings could be resolved over time. At school, Seo Yeon keeps avoiding Kang-woo, which makes Min-hyuk curious. He tries to find out if Kang-woo is bothering her, but Seo Yeon doesn't tell him anything. Meanwhile, Hyun-soo notices that Mi-kyung isn't bothering him anymore. Even when he tries to call her, she always refuses to talk. At the car showroom, Kang-hee meets Won-jae and decides to buy a car from him. She had previously accused Won-jae of being a bad person. But there, Kang-woo, annoyed that Seo Yeon keeps avoiding him, decides to visit her at home. He surprises her and asks what her plans are. Kang-woo then confesses his feelings and explains that he truly loves her. Seeing that Seo Yeon is thinking about his confession makes Kang-woo happy, and he leaves. Later, Seo Yeon meets Mi-kyung at a shop and tells her about Kang-woo's confession. Mi-kyung reminds Seo Yeon that she has two handsome men trying to win her heart. After that, Seo Yeon went to Kang-woo's house to make sure his confession of love wasn't a bet like 15 years ago. There, Kang-woo explained that his friends were indeed betting to date her, but he didn't want Seo Yeon to be played with. He gave his friends money to stop bothering her. After explaining, Kang-woo asked Seo Yeon to date him again, but she still refused, saying she couldn't like handsome men. Feeling frustrated, Kang-woo met Seo Yeon's three brothers to express his feelings. Won-suk explained that Seo Yeon's dislike for handsome men wasn't their fault and asked Kang-woo to stay away from her. Another day, Joo-hee met Seo Yeon to tell her that she got a perfect score after taking private lessons. She wanted to tell Seo Yeon about Seo Joon's trauma but decided against it, remembering his request to keep it a secret. On the other hand, Seo Joon keeps thinking about Joo-hee, calming him down when he was scared. This distraction makes Seo Joon lose focus during training, and his coach warns him. A few days later, Kang-woo and his extended family had lunch together, where Han asked Min-hyuk to choose a position in the family company. Since Min-hyuk hadn't decided yet, Kang-woo advised him after lunch to speak honestly to their grandmother about his wishes. Meanwhile, Seo Yeon starts to feel uneasy because she hasn't seen Kang-woo since she rejected him. To calm down, Yeon got drunk at Won Suk's bar and called Kangwoo to express her frustration. Won Suk saw this, grabbed her phone, and told Kangwoo that Seo Yeon was drunk. Soon after, Kangwoo met Seo Yeon, who was still drunk, to ask what she meant on the phone. Seo Yeon admitted she rejected him because she was afraid of losing him like 15 years ago. But there, Kangwoo promised her that he wouldn't disappear like before. The next day, Min-yuk's friend met him at school and talked about Min-yuk being the grandson of the Shinhwa company's owner. At the same time, Seo Yeon entered the room and overheard the conversation. Min-yuk explained that he kept his identity a secret to avoid special treatment. Seo Yeon admitted she already knew his real identity after chatting with his school friend during the previous reunion. One night, Kangwoo waited for Seo Yeon in front of her house. Seo Yeon invited him in to eat instant noodles, which he had never eaten because of his diet due to Seo Yeon's rejection in the past. They talked about the upcoming running tournament. When Kangwoo heard that Min-yuk would help Seo Yeon, he felt anxious. Later, Seo Yeon, thinking Jangmi had no place to live, allowed her to stay on the top floor of her house with Joo-hee. On the day of the track tournament, Kangwoo came to support Seo Yeon and the Shinhwa High School track team, and Min-yuk, who had planned to join them, decided to follow after finishing some sudden business. When they arrived at the simple hotel where the athletes were staying, Kangwoo felt uncomfortable and moved all the athletes and supervising teachers to a luxury hotel. At the same time, Min-yuk was meeting his father, who had just returned from abroad. His father asked him to return to work at the hospital, but Min-yuk refused. He quickly left after hearing that Kangwoo was accompanying the Shinhwa High School track team. Meanwhile, Seo Yeon called Mi-kyung and told her about the luxury hotel where she was staying, making Mi-kyung jealous. There, Seo Yeon invited Mi-kyung to join her. Soon after, Seo Yeon and Kangwoo were seen playing together on the beach. Meanwhile, Min-yuk, who had just arrived, felt annoyed by their closeness and immediately contacted his grandmother to tell her the position he wanted at the Shinhwa company. In the afternoon, Seo Yeon, who kept thinking about Kangwoo, decided to meet him at the beach. She expressed her frustration about always thinking about him, even though she didn't want to. Kangwoo walked closer to Seo Yeon, closed his eyes, and finally kissed her. Switching to Mi-kyung at the airport, she was on her way to the running tournament when she accidentally met Hyun-soo, who was with Sojun's boy group performing in the same city. Mi-kyung was surprised to find out that Hyun-soo was the CEO of HS Entertainment. The next day, Kangwoo, who was going to support the Shinhwa High School track team, got a call from Hyun-soo. Their fashion stylist had an accident, and Hyun-soo asked Kangwoo to come to the concert venue. Since the idol's makeup artist didn't come, Kangwoo invited Mi-kyung to help prepare the boy group. At the tournament, Joo-hee took first place, making Seo Yeon very happy with her student's achievement. Meanwhile, Won-jae met Kang-hee to deliver her new car. Kang-hee suddenly offered him a job, saying she needed his help, which made Won-jae misunderstand. After returning from the running tournament, Min-yuk tried to persuade his grandmother to let him take the position he wanted in the company. Seeing her grandson begging, Han finally agreed to his wishes. Meanwhile, Kangwoo, who was with Seo Yeon, apologized because he didn't know about the accident that happened to her parents on the night she promised to go to his house in the past. Seo Yeon didn't remember the incident. Her older brother told her she fainted from shock, woke up in the hospital, and had to receive treatment for months. When Seo Yeon recovered and returned to school, she found out that Kangwoo had moved abroad. She thought all the bad events that happened to her parents were because they were not only handsome and pretty, but also had kind hearts, leading to their tragic end. Since then, Seo Yeon avoided handsome people because she feared being abandoned again. In the present, Kangwoo, after hearing Seo Yeon's story, tried to convince her that he wasn't as perfect as her parents. He hoped Seo Yeon would give him a chance to prove his love. Meanwhile, Hyun-soo met Mi-kyung to thank her for helping with the idol's makeup from his agency. There, Mi-kyung said she did it because Kangwoo asked her. As a sign of gratitude, Hyun-soo invited Mi-kyung to shop for luxury bags. This offended Mi-kyung, as she felt Hyun-soo treated her like a materialistic person. Annoyed, she decided to leave Hyun-soo. On the other hand, after his boy group's performance, Sojun gained a lot of attention online for performing well. In contrast, his friend Young-ho received criticism for his performance. Meanwhile, Won-jae accepted a job offer from Kang-hee. After signing his work contract, Kang-hee took him shopping for clothes, insisting he always dress neatly and expensively. Seo Yeon expressed her anxiety to Mi-kyung because she didn't feel anything when she kissed Kangwoo. Mi-kyung thought both Kang-woo and Seo-yeon lacked kissing skills, so she taught Seo-yeon some kissing techniques, which made Seo-yeon uncomfortable. Later, Seo-yeon went to Kang-woo's house to practice, but she still didn't feel anything. Another day, Han came to the school to remove Kang-woo from his position as main director of Shinhwa High School, accusing him of misusing his position. This made Kang-woo sad, and when Seo-yeon heard the news, she immediately went to comfort him. On the other hand, Ho-dol, who is a same-sex lover, was tricked by his friend into going on a date without knowing it was a trap to make fun of him and record him. At home, Seo-yeon and her two older brothers discovered Seo-jun's fear of darkness. They tried to persuade him to see a doctor, but Seo-jun refused and went to meet Joo-hee, thinking she had revealed his secret. In reality, it was Jang-mi who told Seo-yeon about Seo-jun's phobia. Joo-hee then met Seo-yeon to apologize for not telling her about Seo-jun's secret sooner. Joo-hee was curious about Seo-jun's fear of the dark, so Seo-yeon remembered the night her parents had an accident. At that time, Won-jae and the others rushed to the hospital, leaving young Seo-jun alone at home. Seo-jun woke up in a dark house, alone and scared, which led to his fear of darkness. Meanwhile, Won-jae, who turned out to be Kang-hee's personal driver, rushed to her after getting a call. That night, Won-jae found out that Kang-hee always worked hard for the company to reduce her father's workload. Lee, her father, had been forced to take care of the company, forgetting his dream of being a painter. The next day, the vice principal introduced Min-yuk as the new main director of the school. The teachers were surprised, including Seo-yeon, who felt Min-yuk was becoming like a typical ambitious businessman. When Seo-yeon came into his office, Min-yuk apologized for taking the position from Kang-woo because he didn't want to see Kang-woo around Seo-yeon, whom he liked. Seo-yeon explained that she loved Kang-woo and asked Min-yuk not to expect anything from her. In the evening, Seo-yeon and Kang-woo spent time together at the playground, having fun and taking photos. They saw a picture of a dress similar to one Kang-woo had designed when he was little. In the past, Seo-yeon had described her dream wedding dress to Kang-woo, and he had drawn it for her. Back in the present, Oh and Lee were surprised to see Kang-woo's workspace filled with fashion designs. Oh didn't expect her son to choose fashion design. While looking at Kang-woo's pictures, Oh saw a drawing of Seo-yeon, whom she had seen with Min-yuk. Oh then went to Min-yuk to ask about the girl Kang-woo had drawn. Min-yuk told Oh about Seo-yeon, the girl Kang-woo liked. Then, Seo-yeon had another dream about the accident 15 years ago that took her parents' lives. In her dream, she asked her parents to take her to Kang-woo's house. On the way, their car was hit by a drunk driver and rolled over. Her father, still conscious, asked her to get out and find help. Soon after she got out, the car fell into a ravine, killing her parents. When Seo-yeon woke up, she told her two older brothers that she remembered the accident. She blamed herself for what happened, but her brothers tried to convince her it wasn't her fault. In the morning, Kang-woo waited in front of the school and asked Seo-yeon to come out. However, she avoided him, saying she was busy. At home, Oh disapproved of Kang-woo's relationship with a woman who wasn't from their family's choice, while Lee tried to persuade Han to support Kang-woo's relationship. At school, Mi-kyung told Seo-yeon that she was bothered by Hyun-soo constantly calling her. Mi-kyung wants a rich partner but feels intimidated by someone as wealthy as Hyun-soo and doesn't want to date him. Meanwhile, when Seo-yeon came home, Kang-woo was waiting in front of her house because he was worried he couldn't reach her all day. Suddenly, Seo-yeon hugged Kang-woo, apologized, and asked him to hate her if she ever became a bad person. But there, Kang-woo reassured her, saying he would always be by her side. At home, Won-suk asked Seo-yeon if she would be okay being with Kang-woo since their parents' accident was related to him. Seo-yeon couldn't answer and only asked Won-suk to help her if things got worse. On the other hand, Jang-mi, who overheard the conversation, mistakenly thought Kang-woo was the cause of Seo-yeon's parents' death. The next day, Kang-hee warned Kang-woo that they couldn't choose partners freely, especially since he didn't have any achievements their family could be proud of. Kang-woo tried to persuade his sister to support his relationship with any woman, promising to support whoever Kang-hee chooses in return. At school, Oh met Seo-yeon to ask her to break up with Kang-woo. Without thinking, Seo-yeon agreed to Oh's surprise, even though Oh had prepared money as a bribe for Seo-yeon. Afterward, Seo-yeon told Min-yuk about her meeting with Oh. At that time, Min-yuk tried to convince Seo-yeon not to worry because Kang-woo wouldn't let her go unless she chose to leave him. Later, Min-yuk met Kang-woo to warn him to take good care of Seo-yeon so she doesn't suffer. Min-yuk said if Kang-woo makes a mistake, he won't hesitate to try and win Seo-yeon away. At home, Won-suk saw a video of Ho-dol being bullied that was spreading online, which made him worried about Ho-dol. Meanwhile, Seo-yeon went to Kang-woo's house to end their relationship, but Kang-woo refused. Shortly after, Oh arrived, and Kang-woo introduced Seo-yeon as his girlfriend. Seo-yeon pretended she had just met Oh, but their strange behavior made Kang-woo realize that his mother had asked Seo-yeon to break up with him. However, Oh denied it and allowed her son to be with Seo-yeon. Later, Oh invited Seo-yeon to a shop and asked her to continue dating Kang-woo for a while. She said if Seo-yeon breaks up with him now, Kang-woo will blame her. Seo-yeon refused the request, which made Oh annoyed. The next day, Kang-woo went to see Min-yuk to check if he had told Oh about Seo-yeon. Min-yuk confirmed it, which made Kang-woo annoyed. Meanwhile, Jang-mi tried to intimidate Kang-hee by saying she would end the cooperation between her father's company and Shinhwa if Kang-woo didn't leave Seo-yeon. Kang-hee was unaffected by the threat because ending the cooperation would only harm Jang-mi. Then, Kang-hee also brought up the time when she helped Jang-mi in the bathroom after her mother hit her. Embarrassed, Jang-mi quickly left Kang-hee's office. At school, Min-yuk told Seo-yeon that he would still fight for her even though she loved Kang-woo. This disappointed Seo-yeon. Meanwhile, Won-suk, still worried about Ho-dol, met him on campus and tried to encourage him. Won-suk even joined Ho-dol's class and asked him not to hide his identity as a same-sex lover. On another occasion, Won-suk also beat up Ho-dol's friend to stop him from bothering Ho-dol. Meanwhile, Jang-mi told Mi-kyung the truth about the accident that killed Seo-yeon's parents. After knowing that, Mi-kyung immediately met with Seo-yeon to support her friend. Even so, Seo-yeon still felt sad because she couldn't see Kang-woo and worried that if Kang-woo knew the truth, he would blame her for her parents' death. On the other hand, Kang-woo met Dong-gu to talk about his problems with Seo-yeon. Dong-gu, frustrated with Kang-woo's love problems, advised him to give Seo-yeon time to calm down. Another day, Seo-yeon told Jang-mi that she could no longer give her rides. Jang-mi shared that her family only saw her as an asset. Feeling sorry for her, Seo-yeon allowed Jang-mi to stay at her house again, as long as she didn't interfere in Seo-yeon's family matters. That evening, Kang-woo planned to meet Seo-yeon in front of her house, but he decided to leave after seeing her face, which suggested she wanted to break up with him. Meanwhile, Kang-hee, unable to contact Won-jae, decided to visit him at his house. When she met him, Won-jae admitted that he didn't want to use her for money anymore, like he originally intended. As for Kang-woo, his relationship with Seo-yeon was falling apart for no clear reason. He looked messy and seemed to have lost his will to live, which worried Hyun-soo. One day, Seo-yeon came to Kang-woo's house and waited outside. Hyun-soo saw her and told Kang-woo, but he only peeked at her from behind the fence. The next day, Hyun-soo met Mi-kyung at school to find out why Kang-woo was so upset. Before Mi-kyung could explain, she received news that her mother was hospitalized. Soon after, Hyun-soo took Mi-kyung to the hospital where her mother was being treated. Meanwhile, Seo-yeon went to Kang-woo's house, ended their relationship, and left him. In the pouring rain, Seo-yeon cried because she had to separate from the man she loved. Soon after, Min-yuk found Seo-yeon and comforted her as she said she would love Kang-woo from afar. At the same time, Kang-woo arrived with an umbrella and asked why Seo-yeon was crying, but she didn't answer and walked away. When Kang-woo tried to follow her, Min-yuk stopped him by hitting him. At Mi-kyung's house, Hyun-soo tried to cheer her up by cooking dinner for her. The next day, Seo-yeon and Mi-kyung both wore sunglasses to school to hide their swollen eyes from crying all night. They shared their problems and tried to support each other. Mi-kyung was shocked to find out that her mother had been moved to a VIP room by Hyun-soo. She immediately went to thank him and even hugged him, making Hyun-soo happy. At the office, Lee asked Kang-hee to find out more about Seo-yeon so he could support Kang-woo's relationship if Seo-yeon was a good woman. When Kang-hee mentioned her own partner, Lee advised his daughter not to marry just anyone. At the same time, Oh was walking on the sidewalk and almost fell due to tripping. Luckily, Seo-yeon was passing by and quickly helped her, though Seo-yeon left without saying anything. At Kang-woo's house, Min-yuk came to give him medicine for his bruised eyes and to keep him company so he wouldn't feel sad about his failed relationship. Meanwhile, Mi-kyung took Seo-yeon for a walk to cheer her up after her breakup. Unfortunately, when Seo-yeon saw hoarded dolls, they reminded her of Kang-woo, and she ended up buying some. That evening, So-jun went to meet Jung-ho, who rarely practiced. There, Sojun accidentally saw Joo-hee entering a bar looking sexy. He tried to stop her, thinking she was working as an entertainment girl, but Joo-hee ignored him and went into the bar. Unbeknownst to them, someone recorded the incident. The next day, Won-jae went to Kang-hee's office to discuss the breach of contract because he didn't complete his work. Kang-hee offered to waive the fine if Won-jae agreed to date her, as she had secretly fallen in love with him. At school, Oh visited Seo Yeon to thank her for helping the other day by giving her clothes to wear on a date with Kang-woo. At that time, Oh also asked Seo Yeon not to break up with Kang-woo. After work, Min-yuk visited Seo Yeon's house to see if she was distancing herself from him because she hated him. Hearing that Seo Yeon didn't hate him, Min-yuk felt relieved. Meanwhile, Jang-mi, seeing Seo Yeon constantly sad after breaking up with Kang-woo, decided to take photos of Kang-woo, who was also still sad about the breakup. When Jang-mi gave Seo Yeon the photos, Seo Yeon cried, realizing that she still loved Kang-woo. Meanwhile, Kang-woo met with Won-suk, who told him about Seo Yeon's parents' accident. Even though Won-suk emphasized that the accident wasn't Kang-woo's fault, Kang-woo still felt guilty and went to the accident site. On his way home, a truck spotlight aimed at Kang-woo's car, causing him to panic. At home, Won-jae asked Seo Yeon not to keep feeling guilty about their parents' accident because he believed their parents wanted the best for her. This reminded Seo Yeon of her father's last message, asking her to keep moving forward. Realizing life must go on, Seo Yeon rushed to Kang-woo's house. Unfortunately, he wasn't home, so she kept calling his cell phone. Strangely, someone else answered and said the phone was found at the accident scene. At that moment, Seo Yeon panicked until Kang-woo suddenly appeared beside her. He explained that he had just reported an accident on the street and didn't realize he left his phone there. Relieved to see Kang-woo was fine, Seo Yeon expressed her feelings, saying she still loved him. Then, Kang-woo kissed her but then left, still feeling guilty about the accident involving her parents. Arriving home, Seo Yeon interrogated everyone to find out who had told Kang-woo about her parents' accident. Won-jae thought it was Won-suk but asked Seo Yeon not to scold him, as Won-suk was trying to solve Seo Yeon's problem by uncovering the truth. The next day, Seo Yeon met a man who found Kang-woo's cell phone. Surprisingly, the man looked very similar to Dong-gu despite his homeless appearance. As a thank you, Seo Yeon bought some food for him. After that, Seo Yeon asked Hyun-soo for help to meet Kang-woo and return his phone. When she gave it back, she tried to convince Kang-woo that the accident wasn't his fault. However, Kang-woo still rejected her, so Seo Yeon decided to go home. On the way, a sad Seo Yeon met Min-yuk, who invited her out for snacks to cheer her up. Seo Yeon apologized for not being able to return his feelings. Min-yuk accepted this but admitted he would continue to love her. Meanwhile, Ho-dol, who had just returned from teaching private lessons, was surprised to see his father in front of his home. Even though his father didn't say much, he looked disappointed, as if he had learned about Ho-dol being a same-sex lover. The next day, Kang-hee went to Won-jae's house because he didn't answer her calls the night before. Won-jae, who also has feelings for Kang-hee, finally kissed her as a sign that he accepts her offer to date. That evening, Ho-dol told Won-suk that his father had seen the video of him that was spread online. Ho-dol admitted he was confused about how to face his father. Won-suk then shared his past, explaining that as a teenager, he realized there was something different about him. He had even tried to do something drastic because his father didn't accept same-sex relationships. Won-suk's father finally softened when he saw Won-suk in the hospital and began to accept his son. In the present, Won-suk advised Ho-dol to be honest with his father about who he really is. Meanwhile, Kang-woo consulted with Dong-gu again, who was scared that his lie as a fake psychiatrist would be exposed. It turned out that Dong-gu had been pretending to be his twin brother, who was the real psychiatrist. Switching to Han, who was visiting the school, she accidentally fell. Seo Yeon saw this and immediately took Han to the school health unit without knowing that Han was Min-yuk's grandmother. When Han saw Seo Yeon, she realized that Seo Yeon was Kang-woo's girlfriend, whom Min-yuk also liked. Knowing this, Han tried to persuade Min-yuk to return to work at the hospital. Unfortunately, Min-yuk was still traumatized by a past incident where he was forced to lie because of a senior's mistake. Han then went to the office to tell Lee about Kang-woo and Min-yuk liking the same woman. Han asked Lee to keep it a secret from Oh, so the situation wouldn't get more complicated. Lee then reported this to Kang-hee, who opened a file about Seo Yeon and found out that she was Won-jae's younger sister. That evening, Seo Yeon went to Kang-woo's house to be alone. When she didn't come home, Won-jae contacted Mik-young, who was with Hyun-soo, to pick up Seo Yeon. When Won-jae, Mi-kyung, and Hyun-soo arrived at Kang-woo's house, they were surprised to see Seo Yeon and Kang-woo dancing together. They had thought Seo Yeon was sleeping with Kang-woo. Without thinking, Won-jae told Seo Yeon to go home, which annoyed her because she wanted to stay overnight at Kang-woo's house. The next day, Kang-hee, who was dating Won-jae, asks him to talk about his 3 siblings. From his explanation, Kang-hee learns that he really loves his younger siblings. This makes things more complicated because Kang-hee thinks Won-jae might give up their romantic relationship for the sake of his family. To prevent that, Kang-hee meets Kang-woo and asks him to end his relationship with Seo Yeon, but Kang-woo refuses. At school, Seo-joon sprains his hand while dancing in class. Soon after, Min-hyuk and Seo Yeon find out and immediately take him to the hospital. Min-hyuk remembers when he was a doctor and had to lie to cover up his senior's mistakes. His daydream stops when Seo Yeon gives him a drink and asks why he can't lie. Min-hyuk explains that he once told a big lie, making it hard for him to lie again. Hearing this, Seo Yeon starts to worry about his condition. At home, Jang-mi is caught taking a lot of Seo Yeon's clothes. When Seo Yeon and Mi-kyung interrogate her, Jang-mi admits she wants to be like Seo Yeon, who is good and can control her own life. Since she was discovered, Jang-mi decides to go home to the building opposite Seo Yeon's house that she bought. This surprises Seo Yeon and Mi-kyung even more. A few days later, Kang-woo and Seo Yeon were on a date at a restaurant when they saw Won-jae, who was also there for lunch with Kang-hee. Seeing this, Kang-hee quickly called Won-jae and told him to leave the restaurant so he wouldn't find out that she was Kang-woo's sister. When Won-jae got to the car, Kang-hee suddenly asked him to marry her. Won-jae was surprised, and Kang-hee said she would give him time to think about it. That night, Won-suk saw Ho-dol, who was beaten up by his father for being a same-sex lover. Sadly, Won-suk felt helpless and couldn't do anything to help Ho-dol. On another day, news about Seo-joon living with a comfort woman spread online, causing HS Entertainment to call him in. At that time, Seo-joon decided to end his contract rather than reveal Joo-hee's identity, which would ruin her future. When Seo-joon got home, he asked Joo-hee about her job. Annoyed, Joo-hee kicked him and explained that she worked as an online shop model, not an entertainer. At the same time, after thinking for a while, Won-jae finally contacted Kang-hee to tell her he was willing to marry her. Knowing that, Kang-hee was very happy because she didn't have to break up with Won-jae. In a cafe, Min-hyuk told Seo Yeon that he would stop loving her. As a farewell, Seo Yeon hugged him. Unfortunately, Kang-woo saw this, got angry, and chased Min-hyuk. At Kang-woo's house, Seo Yeon tried to calm him down by saying that their relationship had been approved by his grandmother. This news made Kang-woo's anger subside, and he forgave Seo Yeon. On another occasion, Seo Yeon, who knew about the scandalous video of Seo-joon and Joo-hee, immediately took Seo-joon to meet Hyun-soo to explain the truth about the video. Hyun-soo was impressed by Seo-joon's efforts to protect Joo-hee. Soon after, Hyun-soo found evidence that the person who uploaded the scandal was Young-ho. As punishment, Young-ho was expelled from HS Entertainment, and Seo-joon was able to return to his work contract. Turning to Won-jae, he visits Kang-hee at her office. Strangely, Kang-hee acts coldly and accuses him of accepting her marriage proposal just for money. Won-jae knows she's lying and insists he won't let her go. The next day, Seo Yeon invites Kang-woo to meet Won-jae and Won-suk. After chatting, Won-jae realizes that Kang-woo is Kang-hee's younger brother. Because of this, Won-jae decides to end his relationship with Kang-hee for the sake of their siblings' relationships. As a farewell, Kang-hee hugs Won-jae one last time. On another day, Kang-woo visits Dong-goo's clinic and finds out that the doctor treating him had been lying. When Dong-gu apologizes, Kang-woo forgives him because, through his lies, Kang-woo managed to date Seo Yeon. After that, Kang-woo invites Seo Yeon to have lunch with Han and Oh at a restaurant. Since Seo Yeon isn't used to wearing high heels, Kang-woo asks his mother to exchange shoes with her, which makes Seo Yeon embarrassed. Meanwhile, Jang-mi is still being harassed by her mother. Jang-mi threatens to give all her inheritance to her older brother unless her mother stays away from her life. She also promises to give her mother some money in return. On the other hand, Min-hyuk meets the mother of a patient who was harmed by his senior's mistakes in the past. He apologizes, and the woman, who has accepted her daughter's fate, asks Min-hyuk to forgive himself for the past. After this meeting, he decides to step down as school director because he needs to travel to complete some business. That evening, Kang-woo throws a party at his house and invites his closest friends, including Seo Yeon's family. At the party, Kang-hee and Won-jae meet again and grow close, deciding to get married after 3 years of Kang-woo and Seo Yeon's marriage. At the end of the series, 3 months later, Won-suk and Ho-dol have become a couple and received Ho-dol's father's blessing, and Kang-woo finishes Seo Yeon's dream dress for their wedding. Meanwhile, Mi-kyung and Hyun-soo become closer as a couple, and So-jun, Ju-hee, Won-jae, and Kang-hee continue to pursue their goals. The series ends. The moral lesson from this series is sometimes, love triangles turn into love octagons, but as long as everyone's wearing comfy shoes and sharing snacks, life finds a way to work out. Also, never underestimate the power of a well-timed hug or a fancy dress.